The beginning of a new month, the perfect time to shift things around. Always remembering to keep both feet on the ground. Welcome to the Notion of Life series, in which we are creating the ultimate Notion system that helps us get more results with less effort. In the last video, we had a look at the knowledge classification database, which is basically the element of the system that helps us to classify knowledge that does not fall under a particular project. In today's video, we are covering the monthly review, which is a monthly process that we use to wrap up the past month and then start the upcoming month with clarity and intent. Now, just imagine the gems of insight, of wisdom, of knowledge that are all hidden inside this month. We want to distill those gems, and that is why we have this monthly review. Now, before we get started, as always, some practical information. You can use the timestamps down below to skip through the video. You can also increase the playback speed if you think that I am not already talking fast enough. And then all the resources, assets, links mentioned in this video are all linked in the description down below. Let's start with a brief overview of what we're going to explore in this video. The key goal of the monthly review is to assist us in integrating all of our experiences and work of the past month. We're going to explore valuable insights, and we're going to organize our deeper and more impactful planning, workflow, and knowledge pieces. And optionally, if you want, also our finances. So we're going to cover all these different parts of our lives and make sure that everything is aligned. It's uncovering a deeper level of who we are and then translating that into medium-term action. We're going to start with an introduction into the monthly review. What is the monthly review? Why is it important? Then we're going to have some important reminders about the system in general. Afterwards, we're going to look at the monthly review database, the monthly review template, and the monthly review views. And at the end of the video, of course, we'll have a recap of what we've discussed. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with a brief recap on the importance of systems. Principle number 2, we do not rise to the level of our goals, but we fall to the level of our systems. And systems are basically ways for us to take a certain input and then reliably turn that into a certain output. And for us to be able to do that, we need to continually attune our systems, both on the very micro level, but also on the more macro level. For example, the micro level is everything that we are doing during the day, right? So we're taking our energy and the knowledge and all of the things that we are doing during the day. And we want to translate that into certain actions, certain things that we want to complete. And to do that, we have our action tracker and we have our daily review. And that helps us on this micro level take the input and turn it into the desired output. But then on a bigger level, we also have our project tracker and our weekly review, right? So during our project tracker, we're taking all these knowledge pieces that we've created. And once again, using the actions which are coming from the action tracker, we're using this smaller block to go into that goal that we have for our week, maybe the milestone that we want to hit, or a larger chunk of action that we want to complete. And just like that, we also have a monthly review and a quarterly review during which we have SMART goals that we want to move towards, or that we have vision goals that we want to move towards. But the essence is always the same. We have a system that helps us take an input and then reliably turn that into an output. Now, an important note to make here is that our system is never going to be 100% accurate, right? Even if it's 50% accurate, we can already be very happy. So systems are going to be flawed. And that is why we need to maintain our systems. And that is exactly where these review cycles come in. So as a reminder, we have the circle of growth, right? We start with our insight, who we are, what is important to us, our core values. We then turn that into a planning, our vision goals, our SMART goals, our milestones. We then structure all of the knowledge that we have, right? The knowledge pieces that we've collected and we've created. Then we execute on these things that we planned for ourselves, and then we review. And review basically means that we check in with our processes. We check in with our system to see if the system is still working, if it needs maintenance, if we need to tweak certain parts. And that is what we have this review cycle for. Which brings us to the monthly review. And as the name suggests, this is a review process that we do once a month. And during this review, we sort of reflect on the previous month, try to wrap it up in a good fashion, and then also look ahead at the month that is going to come, right? So we set our intention and we set our planning for the upcoming month. Now, the monthly review takes the reflections and the insight from the weekly review. Just like the weekly review took the reflections and insights from the daily review. And like this, you start seeing this layering of the review cycle. So we start spotting patterns during our weekly review of what happened during our days. Then during our monthly review, we start spotting patterns of what happened during our weeks. And like this, over time, we start layering these patterns on top of each other. And by the time we get to this quarterly and yearly reviews, we start getting these very deep and fundamental insights into who we are, into what is important to us, what is valuable to us. And the cool thing about this is that we're not just retrospectively reflecting on this, which makes us very vulnerable to things like the recency bias, where maybe the past 2 or 3 months seem to fill up everything that happened in the past year. No, instead, we get to have this real-time tracking, which actually gives us a much more honest insight into how we were feeling and what is important to us, which then helps us to tweak our system and actually make it more accurate, make it help us get to that place where we truly want to go. So during our monthly review, there is 3 main categories that we cover. And the first one is a deep level of reflection, right? So during our daily review, we have shallower reflections. Weekly review, we get a little bit deeper. And the monthly review, we really take some time to think about deep questions. Then, of course, based on those reflections, you could get insights, but we don't have a particular zone for insight in the monthly review. We're not covering vision goals or core insights, but if something arises from that reflection, feel free, of course, to write it into those databases. Then the next thing that we do is we plan. And once again, this planning is also on a deeper level. And what that means is that during our monthly review, we cover our SMART goals and our milestones, right? So these are the longer term goal setting things, and that is what we cover during the monthly review. And then the last thing that we do is we structure our information. And once again, this happens on a slightly deeper level. So we only review the knowledge pieces that are already very valuable. And then we see if we perhaps want to give them an even higher rating, or if we want to spend some time with one of these knowledge pieces. So that is what happens in this structuring phase. So let's explore that a little deeper. In the project tracker video, we had a look at this visual. And basically what you see over here is the arbitrariness of goal setting. Whenever we want to create something in the world, we can basically imagine reality as a whole bunch of building blocks, right? Imagine reality as a big Minecraft world. And inside this Minecraft world, I maybe want to make a certain pattern. I maybe want to make a certain thing. Now, a simple thing for me to build here would be to create a cube, right? That only requires 4 of these blocks. I put them together and I create a cube. Essentially speaking, this right over here is a very small and simple goal, right? It is a goal. It's something I want to do. It's an outcome I want to reach. But to reach that, I only require like an hour of work, right? So this would be something that we might do inside of our action tracker. Now, alternatively, I might want to do something much bigger. I want to create this pyramid over here. And this pyramid requires me to stack together many more blocks. So once again, this over here is a desired outcome, right? This is a goal of sorts, but it's a longer term goal. And maybe it's a bit more abstract or a bit more complex. So this over here could, for example, be a SMART goal. And this is still an outcome that we want to reach. And then way at the end over here, you see this constellation of many different blocks coming together, this very fancy, abstract, cool looking shape. And this might be a very long-term goal, a long-term and abstract vision goal, right? Maybe this is something that I want to reach in 10 years. 10 years from now, I want to have my dream house in the woods. That is also a desired outcome. That is also a goal. So all of these are goals. They're just at different levels. And wherever we draw the line of setting a goal, it is completely arbitrary. So we can use that and say, okay, during our daily review, we sort of check in with our action. Now, during our monthly review, we are going to check in with our SMART goals. We take once a month to sort of look at the bigger picture. This is not something we have to do every day, but it is something that we need to do at some point. So that is what we're doing during the planning part of the monthly review. Then for the information part, what we're doing is we're sort of trying to distill the most valuable information that we have. And as we explored in the knowledge database video, we are living in a time of information abundance. There is more information available to us than ever before. And this is really great because more information means the ability to create more value. But because we have more information available to us, the variance in the quality has also increased. And what this means is that the best possible information out there is better than ever before, but the worst possible information out there is also worse than ever before. And our goal is to find these gems of information to use and to sort of make sure that we don't get into the shitty swamp of shitty information. And during our reviews, we are sort of rating our knowledge, right? During our daily review, we give this 1 to 3 star rating. Then during our weekly review, we give this 1 or 2 diamond rating. Then during our monthly review, we have the opportunity to give certain knowledge pieces up to a 3 diamond rating. And that is us saying this particular information is valuable to me. And that is something that we discussed in the last video on knowledge classification, that the value of knowledge is subjective. So this might be a very valuable piece of knowledge to me, but maybe this piece of knowledge is very shitty for you. And the monthly review rating here sort of has 2 functions. The first one is this distilling function, right? We're taking information that we gathered during our daily review and we sort of check in later to see, okay, actually that is a 2 gem, 3 gem, and then over time we are finding these information pieces that are very valuable. The added benefit that this has is that sometimes in the moment, something might seem like a very good idea or a very important information piece. But then actually, as we revisit it later, for example, during our weekly review, we realize actually this knowledge piece is not that valuable. And then maybe if we revisit it again a month later, we realize, it's actually even less valuable than I thought initially. So we also help to sort of take away that initial burst of energy that we get, that burst of enthusiasm when we read something new, when we hear something new, when we create something new, and sort of reflect on that later with a calmer mind. And if you then have this knowledge piece that still has that 3 diamond rating after a whole month, you can know quite certainly that you have found a piece of information that is really valuable. And as we do this over the months, over the years, we start building this database with extremely valuable information that we can leverage to create value in the real world, to make things happen that we want to happen. So that is sort of the knowledge review part of the monthly review. And then lastly, we have this reflection part. Now, in the previous video, we explored this concept of the knowledge tree, where we have all of these knowledge branches that are dependent on each other and growing out of each other. And if we cut one of these branches, then all the branches that are attached to that one will also die with it. And the deeper that we cut a branch, the more impact that this change has, right? That's what we call a paradigm shift. If I were to say the law of gravity is not true, then so much of our knowledge all of a sudden disappears or doesn't make sense anymore. Now, the same goes for reflection. But instead of talking about knowledge, now we're talking about wisdom. We're talking about insight. And the thing with deeper reflection is that it can be very confronting, because if I cut this deep branch, that means that maybe a core belief that I held about life or about myself is not true. And that is painful, right? Digging deep is painful, but it's also very valuable. And we need to take time to do this deep digging. And that is why we have these different layers of reflection. The reason I'm saying this is because I'm aware how uncomfortable this can be and how easy it can be to just skip this, not take the time for it. But sometimes we just need to cut off a deep branch and burn off all the dead wood, because that is how we get a better understanding of who we are and what is valuable to us. And this is also why in this model, we take these reflections and we turn them into insights. We take this thing that is very painful, very uncomfortable, but then we process it in such a way that something more beautiful can emerge. So we make the reflection, then based on what we feel, what we experience, what we see, we create this insight, and then from that insight, we create this testable hypothesis, if we put it in scientific terms. We set a goal, we make a plan, something that we can do, and then we check, did that thing actually, right, bring me closer to that person that I want to be? If not, we gain new insight. If yes, that's good. We got a better understanding of who we are. And that's why we have to do this. We have to do this uncomfortable reflection, turn it into insight, turn those into plans, execute on those plans, of course, reflect on that execution. And like that, principle number 1, bring into alignment who we are with what we do. Okay, so that covers the introduction into the monthly review. Now, I want to take a brief moment to also make some notes, make some remarks about the system. And we've covered this before, but I think it's so important to reiterate this that we'll just spend a few minutes here. The first one is that we do not rise to the level of our goals, but we fall to the level of our systems. The purpose of a system is to have something to fall back on, something that we can rely on, something that powers us through to get towards our goals. But with that, we also have to keep in mind that we are not perfect, and that is perfectly okay. So it's not going to be possible to do our system perfectly, to always be on point with everything, to be 100% consistent and 100% accurate. And actually having those expectations of ourselves is going to make it more likely that we fail, because then we get into this mindset where we become binary. Either I do it perfectly or either I don't do it at all, because the pain of not doing it perfectly, of doing it imperfectly, is greater than the pain of not doing anything. This is a dangerous mindset to be in, because even though the pain of imperfection might feel worse than the pain of doing nothing, the result of doing nothing is going to hurt much, much, much more in the long term. So even though we are not perfect, we do want to try something. That is also why it's so important to remember that we are not working for the system. The system is working for us. The system should be like a friend, a buddy, something to fall back on. It shouldn't be a master, a slave driver, something that forces us to be perfect and just fills us with stress and anxiety, right? The system is working for us. And that is also why it's been designed in such a way that it's modular. And this would also be my recommendation for the monthly review. Alter it in such a way that it makes sense for you, right? Maybe there's too many reflection questions in there. Maybe there's too many moving parts, or maybe there's something missing. Feel free to adjust and change. This whole Notion of Life system has been built in such a way that it's a blueprint that has almost everything that you might need, but you can change and you can alter and you can swap out things to your liking. So that would sort of be my notes on the system. All right, that being said, now let's dive into Notion. If this video is valuable to you, then please like and subscribe down below. It really does help. As always, we first navigate to the database collection zone. And then inside this database collection zone, we go down to the review databases and we open up the monthly review. And the first thing we do is we're going to explore the properties of this database. And as you can see over here, that is going to be a very short exercise because there's only 2 properties and they're pretty self-explanatory. So over here, we have the name of the month. And what I usually do here is I write the name of the month and the year in which it took place. And then over here, we set the date span. So we track the actual dates that this month took place. And the reason we do this is so that we can easily sort the database so that we have the months in the right order with the most recent ones. Oh, shouldn't delete that one. With the most recent ones on the top and the oldest ones at the bottom. And also, if for some reason we might miss a month or maybe even miss 2 monthly reviews, then we can also use it to say here, this one took place from January 31st till March 31st, 2024, right? So this was a 2-month period instead of a 1-month period. And sometimes what I will also do then is just say January and March, right? So this 1 monthly review then becomes a larger one. For now, let's just reset that. And then let's have a look at the view in which we most often will open our monthly review. So over here, we have a gallery view in which each month has its own personal cover. Now, I really like this artwork. This artist that made all these beautiful abstract art. I will tag him in the description down below. And I decided to make a custom cover for each of the different months. That also means that when we create a template, the initial template doesn't have a cover, but in the links down below, I have linked a folder with all of the covers for the entire system. So we can just simply take this one. I'm going to say June 24th. And then we can just add this cover from the monthly review covers. And we're going to grab the June one. And just like that, we have a beautifully designed page. Okay, then the next thing that we can do is that we over here then enter the date span. So I'm going to say end date is 30th of June. And then we can actually start executing our monthly review. So let's explore this monthly review template. The first thing that we do is actually the last thing that we do during our previous monthly review. And that is sort of looking ahead to the upcoming month. And the first question there is, what are my intentions for the upcoming month? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in my relationship? What is my intention? How do I want to feel this month, experience this month? Just think about that for a bit. And in the moment, it might feel that, I'm writing all this stuff down. This is definitely not going to happen. But you would be surprised how much power just setting a little bit of intention can have. Then the second question is a bit more concrete. And here we ask ourselves, what would make the upcoming month awesome? What is something that could happen this month, something that I could do, something that I can engage with that would really make this month awesome? So this is more feeling based. This is more doing based. All right. During this monthly review, we check in with the intentions we set last month. And then the next thing that we do is we go into our weekly reflections. Now, if we did our weekly review consistently, this page will look something like this. More often than not, though, we will have missed a week or missed 2 weeks. So maybe we only have 2 or 3 reflections in here. But the purpose of this view is that in a very easy way, we can track back through our previous reflections, right? So we can just open up some of these reflections and then read through them. Usually we have a whole bunch of reflections written down in this writing space, and we could just read through our old reflections. And this is exactly what I talk about when I'm saying we are layering these reflections on top of each other. Because during this monthly review, I can check in with how I was feeling on a week-to-week basis in real time. And if in 3 of these different reflections, I notice that a certain person triggered negative emotion or a certain situation was very rewarding, then that is something that I can use. Something that I can use for my deeper monthly reflection. These are a whole bunch of questions. And once again, here I would remind you, you don't have to do everything. You can design the system to fit your own needs. So maybe you only want to do 3 questions, or maybe you do want to have all these prompts, but only choose to answer a few. That is perfectly fine. You don't have to do the whole thing. But these are questions that help you to prompt that deeper level of reflections. A question like, what thoughts or ideas have been occupying my mind this month? What is something that's been recurring, right? And maybe that's also something we notice from these weekly reflections. And is that something I want to hold on to? Or is that something I want to change or let go of? Or another question like, what's my happiest memory of last month? Or who were the people that were most important to me? We're asking ourselves these deeper questions that can really help us to get to the heart of who we are, right? So that's the monthly reflection. And once again, you can pick a few of these questions. You can change these reflection questions, which is something I will show you in a later video. And that is the reflection part of the monthly review. The next part of the template is about reviewing our processes, reviewing our planning. And the first thing that we review are the active SMART goals. These are the SMART goals that we are currently working towards. And these are always in relationship to a project, right? Every project has a SMART goal. So, for example, one of the SMART goals that I'm working towards is to sell 10,000 copies of Anotion of Life and create a fully automated sales process. Maybe I've come to the realization that actually this SMART goal doesn't match my current ambitions. Maybe I only want to sell 5,000 copies. Or maybe actually I do not want to create a fully automated sales process, but I only want to have the emails being automated. Once a month, we can sort of check in with these SMART goals and see, am I on track with them? Do I want to keep pursuing them, or should something be changed? And I think this is very valuable because sometimes we set goals and we just hold on to them for too long, even when they're no longer serving us. Or maybe we even set a goal that is not ambitious enough. So yes, there's a balance. Sometimes we let go too easily. We set a goal and we just don't properly try to achieve it. But I think also very often we might get stuck on a goal. So this is why we review this on a monthly level, right? We take some time. We don't do this every single day. Like on the day-to-day level, we know what we're doing. We know what we're working towards. But once a month, when we're in this deeper, more reflective state, we have an honest look. Is this goal really serving me? Is this really something I want to keep pursuing? And if not, then it's also perfectly fine to quit. And that is also something that we have in our project reflections, right? If I have my project tracker over here and I open up this project, one of the questions that we asked ourselves during the definition of done session is, what would it take for me to quit pursuing this goal? So this could also be a moment during that monthly review to check in, hey, it is almost July 1st and I haven't sold more than 100 copies yet. Maybe now it's time for me to quit this goal or to change this goal, right? So during our monthly review, we can also take some time to check in with these reflections. And if we think it's necessary, we can change our SMART goals. That is the goal part of the review. Then in the next tab, we have our next up projects. And these are projects that we haven't started yet, but that we might have planned for the future. And over here, we have this dummy entry for our next up project. And I already planned this one for July 1st till August 31st. And I can see it's almost July 1st. So maybe it is time to actually open up this project and get it started. I can either do that in the moment here and now, but if that takes too much time, right, because starting a project can take quite some time, I can also schedule it as a task to do later on. And then inside this project, I can do all the preparatory questions, I can prepare the whole project, and when I'm ready to do that, I can change the status from next up to active. And just like that, this has now also become an active project. So just change that one back. So that's our next up project section. Then the last thing that we do in our action-related review is that we check in with all of our habits. During the habit tracker video, we explored how we can create new habits, how we can integrate them, but also that sometimes we want to terminate them. If we realize at some point, I've not been sticking to this habit or it's no longer serving me, then we can also terminate them. So what we do during the monthly review is we check in with all the building habits, which are the habits that we're actively tracking right now. And then we just see, is this still something that I'm building? Is it something that's more integrated now? Or is it perhaps a habit that has been terminated because it's no longer serving me or I wasn't able to stick to it? And we can take this to build new habits, integrate them, or either terminate them. And once again, this is just something we do on a monthly basis. The whole purpose of this monthly review is to take a block of time where we consciously, deeply think about these things so that we don't have to think about them on a day-to-day basis, right? So it might seem like a lot of time and energy, but it's an investment, because by making this investment, we offload this mental worry, this mental capacity during our day-to-day life. So that actually allows us to be in the moment, do the work, knowing that we will get to this stuff at least once a month, right? So that is the habit management section of the review. Next up, we have the knowledge review, and we are going to do two things during this review. The first one is that we're going to look at the knowledge rating. And like I showed earlier with the graph, over here, we're only going to engage with that very high value knowledge, the knowledge that is really valuable to us. And then we have the opportunity here to take a knowledge piece and upgrade it from a single diamond to either a double diamond or even to a triple diamond. So let's say, for example, that this book, Leadership and Self-Deception, that one was really valuable. And as I spent some more time with it, maybe I read further, I wrote some stuff, I realized this one is really, really, really valuable. Then I could just take this knowledge piece and drag it into the 3 diamonds. And now the rating for this knowledge piece, knowledge rating, has increased. Right? Similarly, I could do that for Atomic Habits. That was also a good book. And maybe the Sauna Report was good, but not the perfect thing. So I'm just going to put it on 2 diamonds. And like that, we can start increasing the rating on these knowledge pieces. Now, these pieces are the most valuable knowledge that we create. And this is a long-term process, right? We create something during the day, we rate it during the week, then we rate it during the month. It takes a long time for these to sort of coalesce, but then at some point you have this database of information about which you know this is where the value is hidden for me. These are the valuable gems of knowledge, and that's why we sort of increase this rating. Now, you won't see it with these knowledge pieces because they're too old, but if it's a relatively new knowledge piece, upgrading its rating will also increase the amount of days that we have left to work on a certain knowledge piece, right? So that keeps the knowledge active for a longer go. And to get a better understanding of what that means, I can highly recommend checking out the knowledge database video. Cool. Next view that we have over here is the completed knowledge view. And this is basically all of the knowledge pieces that we have completed in the past month. And the way we do this is we have a filter which says the knowledge piece is either created or last edited in the last month. And the way we do this is by saying this knowledge piece was either created or last edited in the previous month. And then the action and status is completed. And the way we do this is we have this very complicated formula, which is explored in the knowledge database, which basically checks, based on the rating that we gave to a knowledge piece, how many days we have to work with this knowledge piece, right? That is what I showed you earlier, how many days are left. And as long as we have more than 0 days left, it will be in progress. But the moment it hits this 0 point, right, we no longer have the time and the energy to work on this knowledge piece, it is automatically completed. And then during our monthly review, we can just check in with all the knowledge pieces that we created, both to give us that confidence boost, to show us all the work that we've been doing, but also maybe to have the opportunity and say, this one, it is completed, but it deserves a little more time. Then we can always open it up as a fresh knowledge piece, right? So this is reviewing the deeper level of knowledge. Cool. Then over here we have a bunch of checkboxes to review our finances. This is optional. I think it's good to review your finances once a month. You can just pay all your open bill, check if all the outstanding requests have been paid, review your cash flow, review your investments, just basically cover some of your finances. Currently, we don't have a section on finances in the Notion.life system. If that's something you want, let me know and I can build that for you. For now, it's just a bunch of checkboxes. Last thing that we do, which is also the first thing that we did, is we create the monthly review for next month. So I'm going to say July 24th. Going to add this date span. Going to once again add the cover for July. And then we start our month with clarity and intent. So over here, we're going to write down those intentions that we set for the upcoming month and what would make the upcoming month awesome. And that then ends the review process. And then during the next review, we start the process once again by checking in with these. And just like that, we processed our entire month, reflected on everything, and started the next month with clarity and intent. If you want to build the Notion of Life system from scratch using these videos, then all power to you. However, if you want to start using the system right here, right now, then enrollment for a Notion of Life is open and you can grab yourself a 20% discount code using the link in the description down below. However, I never want money to be the reason people cannot get access to my material. So if you cannot afford the template right now, for whatever reason, just send me an email and we'll arrange something. I like to invite you for a little exercise. Open up the gallery in your phone and just scroll back through the pictures of the last month and take a moment to reflect on how much value is hidden in the past month. How many valuable nuggets of wisdom, of knowledge are hidden in the things that you have done. And then follow up that question by asking, how much of this can I create in the upcoming month? That right there is what the monthly review can help you do. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, all of the resources, assets, and links mentioned in this video are linked in the description down below. In the next video, we are exploring the reflection questions and reflection database. By now, you've seen a whole bunch of reflection questions pop up all throughout the system. Next week, we're going to look at the database that powers all of this. Last reminder, this is part of a series, so if you want to watch the whole Notion of Life series, you can check out the playlist on my channel. For now, I just want to thank you for watching, and remember, whatever the month brings, always keep your feet on the ground.